My wife, for example, at the time, I like to say my first wife. Love to say that, my first wife. Always lets the others know it could be a short stint, right? Because comedy is my love.
Shifting gears just a little bit to kind of comedy 101. So obviously it's Jerry, the joke doctor Corley. And I was wondering how long
I was
that.
given that name like from when I used to have a writer's forum at the Friars Club in Beverly Hills. And we would basically go there on Monday nights and have dinner and drinks and probably get drunk, right? And have 4 or 5 drinks and get pretty hammered. And just like, it was just a fun time hanging out with comics. And I was like, that's got a waste of time, right? Yeah. They've got this cigar room over here that nobody uses. And by the way, that Beverly Hills Friars Club, there was a room there it is rumored where Frank Sinatra banged Nancy Reagan. So
what is that true?
Yes. Look it up. It's
wow.
True. Right. So it's like, at least they say it's true. Right. So that's what I'm going to do, that Trump thing. Some people have said that Frank banged Nancy right there on that couch. Some people have said this. Right. But that's there were so many rumors about that. And maybe that's what happened.
It's super cool club.
Yeah. And so we would be. And so this cigar room, it was a nice room that nobody smoked cigars. And we go into, so I go, why don't we go into the cigar room? It's got a conference table in there. And why don't we write jokes? And so it was me and a few comics. And then it wound up being me and 20 comics. And even some of the veterans came in after they heard what was going on in there. We were actually writing and fixing jokes because I studied structure under Gene Parrott. I said, "Oh, what if we make that joke a misdirection? What if we use incongruity? What if we use a mirrored phrase? What if we use this? We could make it funnier." And then, that joke has an associative gap. So there were the veterans guys who would pitch a joke and nobody would laugh, and he goes, "Oh, I'm going to lose that joke." I go, "You don't have to lose that joke. What you have there is an associative gap. You have too many words in between that first the plant word and then what you're using to modify that word later. So you got a lot of fluff in there that detaches us from what the joke you're trying to make. And so get rid of that, use that piece as the tag after you hit the punchline, and now the joke works." And they do it and they go, "Holy shit, how do you know this?" And I said, because I was taught by one of the top writers who taught me that. Right. So then I started recognizing, I see the associative gap here. Let's get rid of that. Let's tighten this up. And now the joke works. So, and then they were all going. And so these veterans who had been doing it 20 years, and I'd only been doing comedy at the time, maybe 12 years. And but also studying with some good people. That's where the key is like getting expert feedback.
Yeah.
That's the shortcut to success. Right. So it's like, so from there, I walk in one night and for the Monday night, and one of these old timer guys goes, "Hey, there's Jerry. He's the joke doctor. You make comedy well. You fix the jokes." Right. And so they would be like, then they cheersed me and so then all of a sudden the joke doctor. So it's like, I didn't give myself the joke doctor. They called me the joke doctor.
That's cool. I love that. I mean, it's a neat title and it's very apropos. You and I have worked on stuff, one-on-one. I've certainly attended a lot of your classes, and it's very fitting title because you're always in there like, "Oh, what you could, oh, what you could, oh, what you could." And it's amazing how quickly you can take something like that and you're like, "Oh, just move this around and do that." And I see where you're trying to go, but do this. It's like, "Oh, wow, that's impressive."
It's so much fun to be able to do that because once you understand how the puzzle works, it's easier. Like if you go to a mechanic and mechanic says, "Oh, see what you got going on here is this, this, and this, and this. And so this wire is frayed, which is why you're getting that missing, you're misfiring over here." And you're like, "How do you know all this stuff?" "Well, I've been doing this for 30 years.
There you go. Yeah.
Kind of the same thing with comedy. And most people don't understand comedy is a science. It's they think it's, you either got it or you don't type of thing. And they don't know you can get in there and fix something because you increase the expectation or you tighten the association or something like that. So once they know that. So let's get into some comedy 101.
Yeah, sure. So
wait, that was your line, Jerry Black.
you kind of get into it. You kind of went into it there a little bit. Really, I was wondering. So for people that are, the people that I work with a lot of the time, they're wanting they want to try it and they want to kind of get on stage, but maybe this isn't like, oh, I'm gonna be a stand-up comic, but they want to either be funnier with their friends, be funnier at work, that sort of thing. And so that's kind of was for a hobbyist, for somebody that's not necessarily going to be writing every day, trying to get on stages, trying to get open mic, etc. How would you, kind of look at that and say, well, here's then maybe something you could do that would still keep you maybe in practice, still keep you kind of on top of things, but not maybe the rigor that you would expect from a professional.
So I think one of the quickest ways to do that is using double entendre, or what's called simple truth. And that's double entendres, where you take the intended meaning of a word and you spin it and you turn it into the comedic meaning of the word. Now, it takes some practice, in that we're so used to listening to somebody say something and trying to decipher what their intent is in context and in real time. So we don't take the time to look at alternate meanings. But if you train yourself to start to do that, you can start to see them more readily, right? So how does somebody become witty? Somebody says something, well, make sure we hang that up. And it's like, yeah, I'll be sure to hang it up right. Last time I tried to hang it up, I almost killed myself, right? That kind of thing. You're using the word hang to change something. Now, in a comedic sense, in a comedy club, nobody's going to really laugh at that.
Yeah, right.
But in a conversation, it's going to be humorous just because you thought of an alternate meaning for something, right? Or if you go to a grocery store and a lady says, "Did you find everything you were looking for?" What does she mean by everything? She means everything you were shopping for. But as a comedian, we go, everything. Everything could be a lot of things. Could be, the meaning of life, love, soulmate. So I'd be like, did you find everything you were looking for? Well, I found the wine and the candles, but I couldn't find a soulmate. You had mahi-mahi, but I'm just not into twins. And then they laugh.
Right.
And they go, where the hell did that come from?
Yeah, right.
And it's just you thinking of an alternate meaning of everything. And then instead of saying everything again, you put in your meaning of everything rather than saying the word again. And that's the key. It's like you think of the meaning and then you play something back to them with that meaning, the comedic meaning. Like if somebody says, give you an example. If somebody says they're cutting a piece of cake in the conference room at work. Now, you got to be careful when you do these types of jokes, because if you don't have a relationship with this female who's cutting the piece of cake and you're a guy, if you don't have a bantering, fun, playful relationship where you know each other and you're constantly quipping and doing those, maybe some off-color jokes together, then don't do it. Don't ever do that. You'll just wind up getting a trip to HR. But if she's like, "Hey, Jerry, would you like a piece?" She means a piece of cake. You're a man, I'm like, and so how do you respond to that? You could say, sometimes one of my students actually said, "Yeah, piece of that ass," right? And it's like, but I said, what if you were a little more elusive?
Yeah,
or
yeah.
You,
Maybe not quite so direct.
You can say like, "Would you like a piece?" "Sure, and then I'll take some cake." Now, again, you have to make sure that relationship is in place. Sure. If it's not, then it's not going to work.
Yeah.
It's like, what if, and now if you want to go simply, what's a different way to play that? "Would you like a piece?" "War and Peace." And some people might say that's a hashtag dad joke, but you're in a workplace.
Yeah.
And all you're trying to do is get off the subject at hand and find an alternate meaning, It's like, "Would you like a piece?" As long as it's not a piece of a Lego, because I stepped on one last night and I'm still in pain.
Yeah.
That's still going to get a chuckle in the room at work.
Yeah.
You don't have to do comedy club humor when you're in a workplace. And it's like people go, "Why does that guy always make me laugh?" And why is it important to make people laugh? Because when we laugh, our brains release chemistry that's almost equal to the same chemistry it releases when we fall in love. And how does that benefit you as a salesperson? They want to hang out with you rather than the other guy because you made them fall in love. It's also the same hormone if you shoot heroin. So just so you know.
There you go.
You've got them feeling some sort of elation, and you make them high, or you make them tap their veins.
Well, and we're in
So
IT, and
that's
we do
one
call
simple
everybody
way.
users. So I mean, it just
Yeah, there
works.
you go. Everybody's when I first got into IT and they were talking about, well, we got to give it to the user, and we like, I thought they were talking about drugs. I didn't know what we were talking about. I thought we were here for computers, not drugs. Right
Yeah,
away,
right.
you see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
again using the terminology. I
yeah.
mean, how much terminology is there in IT that we can turn
Oh my
to
gosh,
into double entendres?
an unlimited
Hard
amount.
drive, right?
Soft disk. Uh,
Software, soft disk, one letter different, but so different. Soft disk, soft. Get it?
yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
He's nasty. Why is he always nasty?
But he's funny. He's just funny.
Because
I don't know.
because
He's
he's
just
part of the
funny.
geek squad. They don't know anything.
So on the basics, right? So we kind of jumped around a little bit there, but on the basics of joke writing, you have I've attended a number of your classes. You have I guess I would say, would you say it's a book? The PDF is a book. It's a book in
Yeah, it's the ebook. The Breaking
it's the
Comedy's
ebook. That's right.
DNA is
Yeah.
about a 300-page
Oh,
book. And I've gotten so much like great feedback from it about people saying I constantly go back to it as a
constant.
reference. It has helped me so much. It's changed my life. I mean, I didn't think it would have that kind of impact. I was just writing it to help comedians. And also, and I sell it for $67 because I want them to make an investment. Because I know the lesson I learned is that when I got a coach, when my dad said get a coach, and I got a coach, and my coach was charging me $125 an hour in 1981. I was like, Dad, are you going to pay for it? He's like, no, you're going to pay for it. I said, I thought you said get a coach. I did. I thought you'd pay for it. He goes, no, you're going to pay for it. Trust me, son. If you pay for it, you'll go to the classes.
Yeah, you get so much more out of it.
And he was so right.
Yeah, yeah.
I never missed a single class, and
Yeah.
I got a second job to pay for the classes.
Yeah.
I was working Denny's and graveyard shifts.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Part of that is that brain chemistry of, well, if you're paying for it, there's the other, then it must be valuable. And so therefore you will look to find the value, you will leverage it as a valuable thing. And yeah, the ebook is, I will 100% attest to that. Absolutely something that I refer to when I'm trying to work through. I'm more of when I do comedy, I tend to be more story oriented, and so I will kind of write the story, and then I'll go find the places where I can punch it up, and then I'll go back through the ebook and I'll go, okay, where am I, where am I missing? What am I not getting? The other thing that I thought was great about the ebook is the first part of it isn't about how to write comedy. The first part of it is really, to me, about comedy. It's about what you're trying to do, what you are endeavoring to achieve. And I really liked that part of it, that it was just, it just was like, yeah, that it's like you're talking to me, like, yeah, exactly. Oh, that's cool. I never thought of it that way. Oh, that's interesting because, and it just all of those little points. And then you get to the, okay, and now we're going to talk about how you can actually do those things. So I was fully invested in it by the time I got to, kind of the part where you're going through some of those other
I'm glad you said that, because I was one. I didn't know, a few people have commented on that. And it's like, oh, when I was writing that, I go, is that too much fluff? It's like, but I think they need to understand the psychology behind it, because when they get into it, now they're going to be ready.
Yeah.
And I even put in there, if you want to skip to it.
Yeah.
But
I do remember.
it's something.
It's funny.
You're going to wish you read it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I would not take that out at all. And because you're also writing, you're not writing that for like, Steve, who's maybe going to read a book about comedy. You're really written it for people who are interested in comedy, and I think that's really, really powerful that way. So, all right. So we talked a little bit about, I do want to ask you, just as a comedy in IT, shift gears here a little bit, comedy in IT. So you actually have a pretty good grasp of technology, and I don't know if you purposely have done that, or you just had to learn it through life. But you
I had to learn it,
pretty good grasp of it. And so with that said, what do you think, what has technology influenced comedy? or has it shifted or changed? Like, obviously YouTube and technological advances like that, or what have you seen?
Yeah, I mean, way back. Let's go back to the beginning of technology when we technology and then recording it on tape and recording it on for radio, recording it for albums, right? So we go back to there with the first time we could record it, and then it was on radio, and then it was on television. So I think technology and comedy have boosted each other in a way. Well, mostly technology boosting the exposure of comedy. We wouldn't be able to see all this stuff without the technology, right? So now if we get into other technology, move forward, we know about YouTube, social media, the shorts, TikTok, the exposure that comedians have been able to get. Now, back, when Patton Oswalt was at the Just for Laughs Comedy Festival in Montreal, and I think that was in 2014, something like that. He said that, or maybe 2017, doesn't matter, but he said, get out of our way, executives, because of this, comedians now have the power. Creators now have the power. We can create just as much shit as you're creating with no budget. And then we'll put out the same amount of percentage of shit as you do compared to the great stuff.
Yeah, right.
Just watch us go. And it's like, so you better be more willing to make deals with us because we're going to take over and we're going to do it on our own. And what's happened? Matt Rife killing it on TikTok and then dictating what his price is when he goes to a club. Charlie Berens, my student, starting out, coming to me, say, Jerry, how do I cut through the noise? And I say, create a YouTube channel with a character that has a certain niche and do shorts, like 2-minute videos of maybe you just being this character doing a news program. And he started doing that. And then he started getting a following. And the next time I checked on him, he had 77,000 subscribers on YouTube. Then the next time I checked on him, he had 240,000. Then the next time I checked on him, now he's got 2 million subscribers on YouTube. And they come to his shows in droves as fans.
Yeah.
And
already ready to laugh.
Like this guy.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. They laugh at everything.
Yeah.
And it's like, and he just put out his first YouTube special. So he's really killing it.
Yeah.
I mean, when I first saw him be able to springboard his 77,000 subscribers and sell out the main room at Flappers in Burbank and also sell out, I think, the Punchline in the Bay Area the night before and make a door deal with the club, I go, he's on his way.
Yeah.
And then he would scale it by having VIP tickets where the people that paid extra could go do a Q&A or meet and greet afterwards. And it could be more personal. And a whole bunch, because they love him on YouTube, want to meet him and say hello. And it's like, he really just blew up that channel. So now, again, this technology has caused people to be able to drive their own business.
Yeah.
Louis C.K., he goes, his one thing is like, I'll do one for them and one for me, which is George Clooney does that sort of model too. I'll do one for the studios and then one for me. And it's like, so CK will do a special. He'll pay for it. Like his first special, I think, cost him $250,000 to produce. And he shoots it and he made $5 million from it. He made $2 million like in the first 28 days, So selling it for $5 each.
Wow.
Online. So the technology,
wow,
it has had a huge impact on comedy.
No kidding. Wow. All right. Now, I don't know. We're right at 5, Jerry. So we'll take a little pause here. Or do you need to go right now, or
we can do 15 more minutes?
Okay, 15 more minutes, and let's do the business of comedy. We'll close out with the business of comedy, and then so
do you want to do more comedy 101, sort of like a couple of ideas on writing jokes?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I think that's what people will really be tuned into.
Okay,
and then we could do sort of like the ending, because we did kind of cover some business of comedy the technology and the beginning part. Yep. So in this pace, we can just get into like, let's talk about the fun part, writing a joke.
All right, let's talk about the fun part, writing a joke. Let's do it. All right, so take me through it.
So, like you said, you like to do stories. So you start out with a story. And that's, I think, one of the biggest misunderstandings about comedy. What is comedy? Comedy is usually a story. From the moment you take that stage, the audience is asking what's called the dramatic question, which is, who are you and why do you behave that way? Or who are you and why should I care? So you get up there and you say
funny
your
when you say
story.
that. I think
What?
my mom
Why
asked that
should I
question
care?
1,000 times. No, who are you
Yeah.
and why do you behave that way?
Yeah, exactly. Right. My mother used to say, I'm going to kick him where the sun don't shine. And I would say, you're going to kick him in Seattle? Um, which is a simple truth line, right? It's like, what's the alternate meaning of that line?
Yeah, yeah.
In the simplest truth. So it's like,
Sorry, I
I
got you
remember I used to always look for that, right? So that's one of the ways to do it. It's like look for things, is look for like cliches or aphorisms or idioms and colloquialisms. And what do people say? You could even put that into Chat GPT, talk about technology, right?
Yeah,
What
right.
are some idiomatic phrases? What are some aphorisms, idioms that are commonly used in our country or in our culture? And they'll spill out like, if you ask them for 25, it'll give you 25. Ask it for 50, it'll give you 50. If you're on 4.0, if you're on 3.5, it'll say, sorry, we're only giving you 25. You're not paying for this, cheapskate. So, but it won't say that. It's nice,
It's
right?
nice, yeah.
But you take some of these phrases and you look at what the alternate meanings are, and it's like, like I remember when I started to think of things like, what does that phrase really mean? And this was when I first started seeing Jerry Seinfeld when I was younger. What does this phrase mean? It'd be like, I remember going to the post office with my dad when I was 12, and he said, and there was a sign on the door, and it said, no dogs allowed except seeing eye dogs. And I said to my dad, what is a seeing eye dog? And I was in my head, I was envisioning a dog with a big eyeball on his forehead, right? And he was like, my dad was like, a seeing eye dog is a dog that helps blind people get around. And I was like, oh, well, then who's the sign for? Dogs can't read and blind people can't see it, right? So my dad goes, hey, that's pretty funny, kid, right? And years later, it's like, had to be like 10 years later, I see Garen Shandling do this joke, or maybe 3 years later. Then years later after that, I see Carlos Mencia do Gary Shandling's joke at Comic Relief. And it's like, because when I heard he was on Comic Relief, I go, what's he going to do? He can't work clean. And then he did other people's jokes. But anyway, so that kind of thing is like when you see a phrase or a sign or you hear a lyric, analyze it. What does it mean? As opposed to, the words as opposed to are some of your best friends, as opposed to. So if somebody says something, our detergent gets bloodstains out of your dress shirts better than the leading detergent. Well, if you're the leading, if yours gets bloodstains out better than the leading detergent, how come you're not the leading detergent? That's one way to look at that. The other one was like Jerry Seinfeld said, if you've got bloodstains in your dress shirts, you've got more stuff to worry about than laundry detergent, so that's, you're listening to breaking down what they're saying. Sometimes listen to commercials. I heard a commercial that said, if you want to lose 20 or more pounds legitimately, call 1-800-555-1212. And I was listening to the radio go, 20 or more pounds legitimately, as opposed to illegitimately? Because really, if you're losing 20 or more pounds illegitimately, isn't that pretty much an abortion in Texas? So it's like, that's a quick 20 pounds. So if you really listen, like song lyrics, they're great, right? Those are some of the best. Scripture, song lyrics, poetry. It's like, if you listen to It's a Small World at Disneyland, it's a world of joy, it's a world of tears, it's a world of hope, it's a world of fears. Hope, fears, joy, tears. Isn't this a song about being bipolar? So you have that, or you listen to, like, ever hear Bruce Springsteen? Hey, little girl, is your daddy home? Did he go and leave you all alone? I got a bad desire.
Yeah.
Oh, ho, ho, pedo fire. Isn't that what the song should say? Because really, hey, little girl, is your daddy home?
Yeah, it feels a little.
But you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
All you're doing is really listening for, wait a second, that doesn't sound right. Then take a moment and think it through and come up with a simple truth solution to it. In its essence, what is it really saying? We've done this all our lives. Somebody says something, we go, that's what she said. We're already keyed to do it. We just haven't done it in a while. And comedians do it all the time, so they practice at it. So that's why they're ready.
And then
go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you were saying
Well, I was
you
just,
had a
is it,
question.
yeah, as comedians, do you see like I mean, you're writing all the time. And
Yeah,
so are
yeah.
you then like how are you refining that? How do you like, oh, and I'm gonna that's my next 6 minutes or that's my next 10 minutes. How do you do that?
Well, a lot of times, when I write a joke, I know, like George Carlin said, I know with high 98% odds that a joke is going to be funny before I step on stage. When he first said that to me, I was like, oh my God, how do you know this? And he said, because the joke contains all the elements necessary for a joke to be funny. And then, so I started really, really getting down and studying, okay, how do I know this? How do I know this? How do I know this? And as I began to see the patterns and understand the laughter triggers, was psychologically why humans laugh. And I started to see, oh, this joke contains that, this joke contains surprise. I created an expectation to shatter that assumption. That's even got more of a surprise there. Then I know with high odds it's going to work. But as I test it on stage, I still know the audience is always the final judge. That joke could die, even though I think it's funny. So I'll try it out in front of the audience. That's the actual first draft. So the first writing it on the page, that's the rough draft. Taking it on the stage, that's the first draft. Because as you're on stage, that dynamic between you and the audience, how they look at you, whether they frown, whether they raise their eyebrows, whether they shrug, whether they laugh, whether they giggle, whether they go, oh shit, then you can respond off of that. And all of a sudden that joke starts to evolve. So as I take it to the stage, I know what I'm going to say. And I know how I'm going to say it because I practiced it. And as it hits the stage, that show may flip a little bit or change just a teeny bit, depending on how this audience is responding. So I think that's one of the ways that I watch that joke evolve, and I'll practice it. And sometimes the joke will evolve over several times on stage. There are other times where I just write a joke for an event, and I know with very high odds, just because of the way the joke is written, that joke will work. And just because it has, like Carlin said, all the elements necessary for a joke to get a laugh. And I teach those elements in the book. That's the teaser formula, right? And it's like, but that's still kind of a metaphor. And you have to sort of walk through actually writing a joke and then seeing how it works. And I think as a beginner, one of the best things for you to do is learn how to write jokes, because then the stories become easier to write and you start seeing those relationships from all the little structures. And sometimes you can just study the formulas that are in the book, right? And then you can then start telling a story and realize, okay, I see a double entendre here. I see an incongruity joke here. I see a reverse here. I see a simple truth joke here. There's some comedic irony in the overall scenario. And it's like, oh, so let me write it this way. Like, for example, there was a guy who shared with me something about his father. He said, my father is a priest at a mental institution in the UK. And so that's the fact, right? It starts with just a fact. So one of the keys to do is just write down facts. Don't try to be funny. Just write down the facts. So he says, my father is a priest at a mental institution in the UK. What he really said, my father is a priest at a mental institution in the UK. So that's a really horrible accent. He confirmed it. So, so he says this, and I'm like, oh shit, there's irony there. And he goes, how? Why? What do you mean? I said, your father. And I said, first of all, we can say, my father is my father has one of the toughest jobs in the world. It's like, that's a hook, right? So the audience goes, why? And they're like, because he's a priest at a mental institution in the UK. You see, in the UK, we take all mentally insane and we put them in mental institutions. In the United States, you just give them a job on Fox News or put them in Congress. So now you have a joke there, right? Yeah. That's a compare and contrast. In the UK, we do this. In America, we do this. So that's a side-by-side comparison. We love those things. And then he says, my father's a priest at a mental institution. So he reiterates that. And then he says, it's like, it is his job to convince his flock that somebody's watching them at all times, meaning God.
Right.
They are, in fact, in the mental institution because they believe somebody's watching them at all times. So you see, there's the irony, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, which is double entendre in a way, a double meaning of the phrase, somebody's watching me at all times, God or paranoia, right? So that's kind of how you, and I saw that, and I see that because I was like, oh, wow, what is mental? So I'm like, mental institution, a priest at a mental institution, what would that be like? What would happen? He's telling people who are insane that somebody's watching them at all times. That would be the simple truth of what a priest does. God is watching you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So is everybody else. Right? So somebody get me a straitjacket. Right. So it's like, so when there's a weird tie in there too, because the irony of like being in a straitjacket because you believe that somebody's in the clouds watching you at all times. And you fully believe that. Now, I don't want to pick on anybody's religious beliefs. I try to stay away from that, except because I'm logical and reasonable. I don't believe in it. So it's like, which is, it's just to me Santa Claus, right? It's like after a certain point, you go, okay, I get it. But no, most people are like, no, I don't want to go to hell. Really, dude? Are you serious? It's like, are you a grown person? And I don't mean to, interfere if it's your belief.
It does not matter at all. I'm one of those.
But for me, it's like,
if it's funny, I don't give a shit.
People believe what they want to believe, man. If it helps them, they do it.
Yeah,
do it, man.
Yeah,
I have no problem with that.
Whatever gets you through the day, let's do that.
So it's a great place to find it is in the truth, in some sort of truth, state of fact. Like, let's do this one. I'm actually releasing a video on it. So it's like taking one word. And Joel Byers, my friend over there at the Hot Breath Network, he does a Write 10 Club where he gives the comedians a word and they have to have 10 minutes to write a joke on it. So it's like, how do you write from one word? One might be the word lazy, right? So that's, how do you express yourself? What's a fact about you? I'm lazy, right? It's like, so we can go top 10 reasons you're lazy. That top 10 list started out back in the writers' rooms as a punchline generator. Like top 10 reasons you're lazy. And you exaggerate and you come up with ideas how you're lazy. But I can even take it further and you go, what would be the worst thing to be lazy at? What would be the worst thing to be lazy at? As a man.
Yeah, sex, I would think, right?
Sex. I'm lazy at sex. That would suck, right? I'm lazy. That's funny, actually. Think about it. It's like, so it's like I can say to the audience, Eddie, hey, how many people here consider themselves great lovers? You good? You a great lover? Yeah. I'm a lazy lover, man. And it's like, that's just funny because it's got an alliteration, lazy lover, right? It's like, I'm a lazy lover. Like my favorite position is a nap. You got a solid joke right there.
Yeah, that's good.
Also self-deprecating, right? You're making fun of yourself. And now now let's go with another one, rain.
Okay.
Now here's where your comedy structures can come into play. The original definition of a joke is two dissimilar ideas converging. Right? Taking two ideas, putting them together. We can do that with analogy. My girlfriend's like an egg. Hard on the outside, soft on the inside. And in the mornings, I like her over easy, right? So that's you're creating an analogy. And what you're doing is giving the audience an illogical equation. My girlfriend is like an egg. They go, how? Cracked. My girlfriend's like an egg, scrambled. Like now here's the trick with that type of joke. And anybody can take this and make these jokes. Right. This is something they could do right now. So, Jerry, we talked about at the beginning. How can you start something like conversational?
Yeah.
Like use analogies, man. They're so easy. My ex, who is an alcoholic, is a lot like the signal on a smartphone. At any given time, I could usually find her at least one bar. So so now we blended technology and comedy. But in this case,
that's a good one.
We take rain, right? Take two dissimilar ideas. If you practice the girlfriend like an egg or boyfriend like an egg joke, you're going to find a lot of stuff to play with. Because now here's the key to making those jokes work. The connector line, my girlfriend's like an egg, hard on the outside, soft on the inside. That's true for each egg and girlfriend. My girlfriend, hard on the outside, soft on the inside. Metaphorically, we say that and people go, yeah, that sounds like it's true. Egg, definitely hard on the outside, soft on the inside, unless it's hard boiled, like my first wife. Now, but you could say that now you have a truth, right?
Yeah.
Two dissimilar ideas converging, and the audience is dying for you to solve it for true. And all you do is solve it for true. So it's true for each. So and then you separate it. Hard on the outside, soft on the inside. That could be a girlfriend. Hard on the outside, soft on the inside. That could be an egg. Now my girlfriend's like an egg, hard on the outside, soft on the inside. And in the mornings, I like her over easy. Right? You can pump that up a little bit. Now you got after you're done pumping her, hey, you got me. Hey, yeah, that shit thing. Right? So you have you see what I'm saying? You can
Yes.
work with those with IT. You can do that. All these. My first wife is like an Apple computer.
Yeah, right. Oh
You
yeah,
know,
all day.
fucking expensive, and pretty much good for about 8 years. Um, then it's just done. Right. So that is that true for Apple computers?
It's true for Apple computers.
Could that be true for first wives?
Metaphorically
Yes.
speaking, sure. Yeah.
Right. Metaphorically speaking, sure. So it's like I'm just talking about you from personal experience, Jerry. Uh, so in this case, like so that's a cool way to do it, right? So
Yeah.
now analogy, play with that all day. My girlfriend's like a drink of water. My girlfriend's like and the reason I say girlfriend is because it makes it personal, right? We can
Sure.
feel that tension. We're talking about personal relationships. So if we go back to rain, that
Yeah.
one word. So rain, what else can rain be? Rain, precipitation. Rain is raindrops. Rain could be rain as in a dictatorship.
Mm.
Like, I've noticed, I'm not saying Trump is a Nazi sympathizer, but I've noticed there's a lot of rain at his campaign rallies recently. So that's
Interesting.
one way to do it. But one thing that really helps you get to the volumes of jokes
Yeah.
is to find that secondary idea. I once knew a stripper whose name was Rain. Yeah. Rain was the name of a stripper. So now you have stripper, all this stuff related to stripper, the sexuality of it, the embarrassment of it, all of the tension there that's with stripper. And now list everything you can think about dealing with stripper and everything you can think about dealing with Rain. And then start finding the combinations that collide to make are true for each and both at the same time. So I actually dated a stripper whose name was Rain. It's like now I understand when my mother said, it's raining outside. There's rain outside. Wear your rubbers. Okay, so there's a possibility, right? And so you can go further with that. It'd be like, rain. What else? Rain is like a weather report. You never have to ask if you have sex. You just check the Doppler. 70% chance. Wear your rubbers. So it's like you have that, or rain. Rain as a weather report. You start writing down everything dealing with weather report. Rain with a chance of snow, cocaine, strip clubs. I once dated a stripper I knew a stripper named Rain. She used to let me snort coke off her ass. Every night was like a weather report. Tonight there's going to be rain with a chance of snow. So now you see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
Jokes are word puzzles. They're word puzzles.
Huh.
So it's like that's how you sort of piece those together, knowing that incongruity. In a way, I'm tying in weather report, rain, stripper together and showing how they work together. What a coincidence. Coincidence is a laughter trigger. And then people also recognize what a stripper is, what rain is, and they can see that tie-in. You don't have to get naughty. You can be very clean. You can be like, had to cancel the game today because it rains cats and dogs. Rain can't. The bad news is we had to cancel the game. The good news is they're all rescues. So it's something as simple as that you could do as well too, because all you're doing is taking a word. What else can it be? And then really kind of breaking it down. Once you do that regularly and you start saying all these different things, even as a hobby, just like somebody does puzzles for a hobby, plays video games for a hobby,
Yeah, sure.
You're taking wordplay and doing it for a hobby and practicing with it. Then when you're with your friends, you see those patterns repeat themselves. My friends started by listening to comedy on the television or on the radio and then writing down the jokes that made him laugh and then trying those in front of his friends and then realizing that his friends would laugh. And then he would also be able to, then he started realizing in conversation that some of the same patterns that showed up in the jokes he was telling were showing up in something he was saying. And then he'd use that same technique that he learned from telling those jokes in that conversation he was having.
Huh.
Like,
That's really cool.
So right, there's like that's some of the simplest ways to build jokes from scratch,
which is perfect, right? Like for our audience, I think that's perfect. Is the kind of that basics. Really, IT guys love puzzles, right? We love trying to solve things, so that's really, I think, speaks to IT guys, and it'll be helpful. Anything that you want to cover as far as like things you want to talk about, any shows you got coming up, or anything, how people can reach out to you, learn more, be more
engaged? I mean, I think one of the best things is like I've got, first of all, in a couple of weeks, I'm doing a weekend workshop in Vegas. The writing workshop is one thing that when I first started teaching this, I started doing the weekend workshops. And it's basically 2 days, 6 hours a day, comedy writing intensives. We cover everything, and you guys are writing jokes in your first hour. Is what I love about this thing. Is like I see people that are lay people that come in and start writing jokes, and like, holy shit, I'm writing jokes that are decent, that jokes that are getting laughs. And it's like, that's the fascinating part for me. So there's that's coming up. And also I've got every week I do the a la carte classes, where this session, I do them in 12-week semesters. And in this session, we're doing, we have 12 comedians that have got a following that people have asked about. And I'm drilling down and showing how they write their jokes. And I just did Nate Bargatze, who basically broke the record of the streaming record from Amazon Originals or Amazon Prime, where people downloaded his special called Hello World 2.9 million times in the first 28 days, beating Jim Gaffigan, who had 2.4 million downloads in the first 28 days. So so that was really incredible. So that's one of the reasons I focused on Nate.
Got it.
Plus, Nate is a very easygoing conversationalist. He's from Tennessee. It's like you really have to drill down and see what he's doing in his technique to get the laughs. He's using some old school methods like Jerry Seinfeld, repeating the same phrase and word in a sentence or multiple sentences. It just keeps appearing. And it's just a technique that works. He'll start on a way to the goal of the joke and then deviate and go off on the side thing for a while and then get back to the main part of the story. And they laugh that he's spent all this time over here rather than on the story. It's really good, interesting storytelling. And people think he's new. He's been at this 20 years.
Yeah.
But he's selling out venues. Also broke another record and sold out this venue in Tennessee, where it was like 19,000 people. So he's killing it, man.
Yeah. Wow.
And he's also been called the nicest guy in comedy, besides me. No, he's just, and for a comedian who's at his level of success, who's still just so nice to everybody.
Yeah.
It's not common. People kind of easily get full of themselves, and he just stays nice. And that's the secret. Stay nice to everybody on the way up. You meet those same people on the way down.
100% agree with that. All right. Well, thank you so much, Jerry, for your time today. I really do appreciate it, man.
And the website. You can come to the website and see all the classes that are available. And that's standupcomedyclinic.com.
Standupcomedyclinic.com.
I'll do it like a commercial. Standupcomedyclinic.com. That's standupcomedyclinic.com. Call now.
You have a membership on that?
Like, not yet, but now I've got 110 a la carte classes already in the can.
Oh yeah.
So all this material that's available, it's time to do a membership site.
Yeah, it is.
And so I'll be doing one where they have access to everything and they can download and learn as they go. And so plus my YouTube channel, which I give away a lot of stuff on.
Yeah, the YouTube channel is, good luck with the membership. I know it's going to kill it. The YouTube channel, to me, I will just, whenever I'm doing anything and I want to, you know what, I probably should just get in that, I got out of the comedy mindset. I need to get in the comedy mindset. I'll just go find a Jerry Corley video or two, watch him and be like, okay, I'm back in it. I'm feeling great. So yeah, your YouTube channel.
It's funny. It's funny when you get comments that say those that can't teach, really, college professors who are the top lawyers in the world also teach.
Why would somebody say that?
Because that's their best they can do with their jokes.
Yeah.
It's like to come up with that. Because people don't think you can teach. And there's like the thing is like there's a ton of great comedians out there that can't teach.
Oh yeah.
But they don't, like when George Carlin said, I said, what are those elements that make a joke work? And he goes like, you're gonna have to learn those on your own, kid.
Yeah.
And then later on, he was like, he took a glass of wine and a painkiller because that was his drug of choice at the time.
Yeah.
And he said, I think the reason I said that was because I don't know.
Mm.
Intuitively, I know,
He just
but
knows.
I can't verbalize it.
Got it.
You
Wow.
know, it's like maybe you can like find the labels for that stuff. Like my dad used to label everything. You can label that, identify it, and then you can teach it. I was like, okay.
And here we are.
And that's what I did. That's where I learned that. I said, he taught me, he said that. I said, okay. And I took that kind of as a command, thinking that was a note for him to me to learn. How I can learn more is by labeling this stuff. And so I started to do that. And that's when I started to identify, go, holy shit, these do repeat themselves. Holy shit, that comedian just used this one. What do we call that? That's a simple truth. That's a simple truth. What do we call this one? That's an incongruity. And plus, then I get Melvin Helitzer's book, Comedy Writing Secrets, and he already had some labels. So I sort of built off of his labels because he was a journalism professor at Ohio University, and he was teaching comedy courses based on Gene Parrott's book, but kind of like dumbed it down a little bit for lay people. And it made it, and it really is a good book to get to as well, along with Breaking Comedy's DNA, of course.
And you'd still recommend Gene Parrott's book as well, correct?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Still works today. Yeah, no doubt. And Melvin Helitzer's book. And if you're learning comedy, I try to get Judy Carter's book, Greg Dean's book.
Yeah.
All of that stuff is going to give you something that you go, oh, here's a tidbit. And maybe they say it in a certain way that flips the switch that I didn't say it, you know, the way I didn't say it. All of a sudden they go, oh, I see. So it all works together, I think.
That's the difference of mastery versus, I read a book on it and now I'm good. No. If you're trying to master it, you gotta have a lot of teachers.
I read all the books, but also the one thing to do is to, you know, not that I've read all the books, but every time one comes out, I try to get it, try to go through it and look at, is there something new that I can share with my students? And I think that's helped a lot too. And this is something I'll just touch on real fast. A lot of times when I hear news, I don't just read the news. I read the news as if I'm going to explain it to somebody later so they understand it. And so now I absorb so much more. Like when I first got into like technology, I couldn't afford to get my computer fixed. So I had to rebuild mine. So I got this really cool book on how to rebuild a computer. And the way the guy wrote it is he talked to me. I felt he was talking to me, which is where the Breaking Comedy's DNA voice comes from. And I was like, and so I was able to follow this book and rebuild my computer, and it worked. I was like, oh my God, it works. And I was like, I felt so empowered that I understood what made this thing tick. And that's why that's the stuff. And that was early in my comedy career. And that's what I applied to my comedy, was the mechanics of how to explain this. So when I read something, I want to be able to read it so I can explain it. And that's kind of how I try to write the book. So it's like people identify what it is. And sometimes they'll still run into a block. And that's when people get private coaching from me. I have a bunch of people on my coaching list that I'm coaching right now. We coach. We have a great time doing it. And so it's like, comedy's amazing, man.
It's amazing.
It's amazing.
All right. Thank you so much, Jerry. I hope you have a wonderful evening. Thank you so much for being on the podcast today.